Hey everybody, so the channel quietly surpassed 10,000 subscribers a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't really post anything or do anything special, like an Ask Me Anything or like a live stream, mostly because honestly it still surprises me that many of you chose to subscribe, and like how sad would it be if nobody showed up to my live stream? It's so negative. Anyways, I thought maybe as sort of like a 10,000 subscriber milestone, I'd post this video that I've been meaning to post basically since I started the channel just over a year ago. It's a nod to Russ and Laura over at the Path Less Pedaled channel, who are clearly a big influence on this channel and who are champions of the party pace ethos, which I so relate to when it comes to cycling. So as sort of a half-assed way to celebrate 10,000 subs and to say thank you if you do subscribe to this channel, here's kind of a silly video and my ode to party pace. Now, it's no secret that Russ and Laura from the Path Less Pedaled channel have been a huge influence on this channel, and I'm inclined to say that their channel, and maybe a small handful of others, is actually what pushed me to finally start my own channel just over a year ago. Now, one of the things I appreciate most is, of course, Russ's party pace ethos, which underpins essentially all of his videos. It's refreshing to be reminded that riding a bike is not all about winning races and maximizing speed and efficiency, and perhaps most importantly, that you don't need to feel like an imposter if you don't live on the cutting edge of bike technology or race competitively. So in an effort to spread the word of party pace and normalize casual riding, I present to you 6 tips and tricks that I use to stay in the party pace mindset and avoid getting bogged down in the data and the science. Now, originally this started out as a how-to ride party pace video, but I soon switched it to a how I ride party pace video because at its heart, the essence of party pace is somewhat undefined, and I don't think that there's a right way to do it, at least in my interpretation. And I think this is by design. It's personal and subjective, and it can't be quantified like FTP or average speed or watts, and I think that's kind of the point. Now, I do think that for some, party pace will certainly mean racing amongst your best friends and seeing who can best each other. Now, for others like myself, party pace implies a return to the mindset that I had when I started riding bikes in the first place. Now, I'm sure like many of you, I started riding bikes as a kid, BMX bikes in particular, in the early to mid 90s. And the bicycle just meant freedom. It meant that you could hang out with your friends and venture further from home than ever before and enjoy being outside with no agenda, no cell phones, no real responsibilities, and certainly no Strava. It meant unlimited new challenges as we tried to master new tricks, and if we were lucky, we'd have a few bucks that we could spend on a soda or a candy bar, and the most pressing issue of the day was whether to go to the close corner store or to venture out and go to the good corner store, which was across town. Now, riding bikes with friends as a kid, in my opinion, defines party pace. We just didn't have a name for it at the time. And now, as a self-proclaimed adult, party pace to me, again, means riding the bike for the sake of riding the bike. It's not a specific speed or percentage of your FTP, it's a mindset. Whoa. Now sure, it's also fun to track your fitness and your progress by way of analyzing the data, but it's also easy to get distracted by your average power or how far you've ridden, and as with most things in life, I think balance and perspective is the key to long-term success. So given all that, here are some of the ways that I stay in the party pace headspace when I find myself stuck in the data and when my motivation starts to dip. And I hope it helps some of you adopt the party pace mindset as well. So, number 1, and this is maybe the most disruptive one, you gotta put away the head unit. Now, I think it's way too easy to get distracted by staring at the numbers if the Garmin or the Wahoo or Hammerhead is staring you right in the face. Now, I would say at most, I recommend bringing a phone and maybe having Strava running in the background if you like to track your miles, but put it in your pocket or a bag and only look at the numbers after you get home. Now, I found that this does a couple of things. First, you relearn how to ride based on feel, which is definitely a skill. And I have to say, it's kind of empowering to go back to listening to your body and understanding your limits without the need for analytical feedback. And it certainly helps to keep you in the moment, which is always a good thing. Also, I would argue that when you put away the head unit, you literally look at your surroundings more, and consequently, I think, appreciate the nature around you. After all, the point of getting outdoors is to get outdoors, and by extension, away from your screens. Now, of course, if you use a head unit for navigation in remote or unfamiliar areas, then that's a little bit different. But I think there's still ways to customize your head unit screens so you aren't constantly staring at average speed and power numbers. Okay, so tip number 2 is to have a destination or an experience in mind rather than a time or a distance. In other words, if my schedule allows, I like to define the ride without setting a time or a mileage goal. Now, for instance, I might say on this ride, I want to sit on the bench at the top of Four Corners in Chino Hills State Park and have some coffee. Instead of, on this ride, I want to cover 30 miles at an average power of 200 watts. And my light went out. I don't know. And we're back. Now, while this approach may not be feasible to busy people who only have a finite window of time for a ride, I found that if I set out on a ride without a specific distance or an average speed, I tend to, again, stay in the moment and appreciate my surroundings that little bit more. And while this approach may not yield the maximum fitness gains per unit time, it certainly leaves me looking forward to the next ride rather than dreading it, which could be argued that it's even better for long-term fitness as you'd ride more consistently throughout the year, which is arguably a better approach than intense intermittent training. Now, the next one will admittedly sound pretty obvious, but taking more breaks during a ride could help you to pause and appreciate your surroundings more while at the same time preventing premature fatigue. Now, sure, if you ride in a group, then there's kind of an unspoken rule to keep the group moving, which generally results in fewer rest stops. Now, if I'm being totally honest, this is often why I prefer to ride solo, or at least with like-minded cyclists who don't mind the frequent rest stop. A stop every 10 or 12 miles or so, for me, is pretty normal on a typical solo ride, but on days where I'm not feeling as motivated, or on rides where there's more scenery to be appreciated, I might stop as often as every 6 or 7 miles. And while it certainly reduces your average miles per hour, I usually end the ride happier and less drained. Now, here's one that probably a lot of you will shrug off, but I think a great way to embrace party pace is to ride a slower bike if you have the option. Now, of course, it's always easy to favor the fastest bike in your stable because, well, it's the fastest, which can be fun. But a slower bike is a very real reminder that speed isn't everything. Comfort, utility, and storage capacity are all things that generally detract from speed, but certainly increase the party paceness. Now, I'm actually pretty excited to get this here 1990 Hard Rock build finished up so I can put this notion to the test, as it's going to be a single-speed mountain bike, and yes, it's going to be very slow, but also very fun. Exciting. Now, similar to the tip above is to pack more luxuries. Now, it used to be that I'd set out on a road ride with nothing more than a tiny seat pack with essential tools and maybe some snacks stuffed into my jersey pockets. Now, over the past few years, like many of you, I've been experimenting with on-bike storage in the form of bike bags. Now, I started with a simple handlebar bag like this one from Lead Out, and soon enough, I had this half-frame bag from Outer Shell, which basically lives on my Diverge. And I've experimented with increasingly larger and more plentiful carry options, like these stem caddies, or this recent acquisition, the handmade Oveja Negra 925 bar bag. It's big. Now, the point, of course, is to load your frame bags and stem caddies with extra snacks and treats, and even activities like cameras and maybe a sketch pad for the ride. Now, sure, it might slow you down and add extra weight, but there's no doubt that it's more fun and it adds a whole new dimension to your cycling experience. Now, lastly, and this is a big one, is clothing. Now, basically, instead of defaulting to full Lycra kit, you could try a t-shirt ride once in a while, or something like my personal favorite riding shirt, a merino wool short sleeve Henley from the brand Woolly. It's casual enough, more affordable than other brands, and it's really comfortable. But it also has all the benefits of wool, like better heat and moisture management, as well as its ability to repel odors. Now, basically anything except full cotton could be an option, and just to be wearing something other than full traditional cycling kit tends to put me in a different mindset, a much more relaxed mindset, and I'm certainly more comfortable and therefore happy. Now, sure, for longer rides, a chamois and cycling bibs are actually pretty practical, but you can go with baggy shorts over a padded liner short for a more casual look and feel. Alright, so that's it for my top tips for riding party pace. Kind of a silly video maybe, but I do think that there's a lot of value in normalizing casual cycling, and I'm happy to support channels like Path Less Pedaled who are devoted to cultivating an inclusive community of non-competitive cyclists. Now, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that if you're subscribed to my channel, then it's probably very likely that you're already subscribed to Path Less Pedaled, but if you're not, then I highly recommend you check out Russ and Laura's channel if you can relate to the party pace ethos, if you can relate to the party pace idea, if you can relate to the party pace concept. There you go, concept. If you can relate to the party pace concept. The link to the channel is down in the description. Thanks for watching, and thanks again for subscribing to this channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.